Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the May 22nd, 2025 Planning Board meeting. We're happy to have you with us this evening. Ms. Washington, could we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Barhu?
Present.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
Mr. Robinson? Present. Mr. Servance? Present. Mr. Weatherholtz? Here. Ms. Washington? Present. Yeah. And Ms. Callis? Here.
Very good. Quickly, wanted to welcome Josephine to our august group here. We're glad to have you, and we're looking forward to your contributions on the planning board. So you're quite welcome. We're also, folks, so we're aware on item 4D, we're going to be removing that from the agenda. So if I'd ask my fellow members to make that adjustment, I'd appreciate that. So item 4D will be off the agenda this evening. I'm sure we'll be seeing it sometime in the future. So moving on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of the March 27th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Moving forward, any citizens who'd like to address the board concerning items on the agenda, we ask you to fill out the green comment form. I'm sure you folks that have done it are very familiar with it. When you come to the lectern, please state your name and address for the record. And we have a time limit of 3 minutes, but if you can make your point in less than 3 minutes, we won't say no to that. So please, if you do have something to say on an item, get to green form and get it up to us if you would, please. So let's move on to item 4A. Madam Secretary, please.
Item 4A, 660 Mason Avenue, Planned Development General, PDG, rezoning DEV 2023-333, quasi-judicial hearing.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Dana Lee. How are you? Good.
Good evening, Dana Lee Pettick, Senior Planner. This item is a request to rezone approximately 2.33 acres of property from Business Automotive and Single Family Residential 5 to Planned Development General to bring an existing development into compliance with the comprehensive plan and allow for commercial or multifamily uses on the property. So the property is located at 660 Mason Avenue. The future land use on the property is retail. The current zoning is Business Automotive and Single Family Residential 5, and the proposed zoning is Planned Development General. And this is the aerial, which shows the existing developed site, which is the former bowling alley. So the property has a split zoning of Business Automotive and Single Family Residential 5 with the retail future land use designation. And the property is developed, like I said, with the building constructed in the 1960s, which was previously a bowling alley, but has been vacant for many years. The proposed rezoning to Planned Development General would remove the split zoning and bring the property zoning into compliance with the retail future land use designation, which is not consistent with single family residential. The proposed PD would allow for commercial and multifamily uses on the property with a more limited scope of uses than currently allowed in the BA zoning, which is on the property. So the full list of permitted uses is in the staff report. So this is the PD plan, which shows the existing development with the proposed improvements. And the applicant has requested 3 waivers and modifications from the Land Development Code for the property. First, the code requires fences or walls serving multifamily or non-residential development and adjacent to public rights-of-way to be located behind any required perimeter landscaping or buffered yards. However, as shown on the PD plan, the only perimeter the applicant will place the wall on the property line instead of behind the landscaping is the east buffer, which is not adjacent to a public right-of-way, so we do not object to this waiver. Next, the applicant has requested the code requirements for landscaping around the perimeter of the building be waived or reduced. This site has the existing building, which will remain, and waiving these requirements will accommodate the building and the existing site features and the improvements they would like to do. And finally, the applicant has requested to waive the requirements for landscaping and vehicular use areas for the paved area located behind the building. So it's that big block of space on the top of the PD plan. This area will not have public access or parking, and it may be redeveloped in the future, as indicated on the PD plan. So with that, staff recommends the planning board forward the rezone of approximately 2.33 acres from Business Automotive and single-family residential 5 to Planned Development General to the City Commission with a recommendation of approval. A majority vote by the planning board members and present and voting is required to recommend approval to the City Commission. The item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by City Commission for first reading on July 2nd and second reading on July 6th. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff?
Quick question, if I may.
Yes, please,
About
Mr. Barber.
The major thoroughfare. It's a major thoroughfare, and I know there's certain landscaping that's required. Are they asking for that to be waived?
No,
Okay,
they are meeting that requirement.
okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Robinson?
I live near the alley, out of the ex-bowling alley. I wish they would bring back another bowling alley. And, well, you know, it kind of like put the area in a blighted looking area. And a lot of traffic, tourists goes down Mason Avenue. So in the interim, I would love to see some landscaping around the building or do something with it until it is redeveloped or something to improve the aesthetic of that area and the blightness that it gives, because it's just been there since, what, 2016? And is there plans maybe from the applicant, maybe?
Yeah, so the
What plans are there
PD
for?
plan does show their proposed landscaping. If we could go back to that. There we go. Thank you. So as you can see in the front along Mason, it does show that they are going to put landscaping in place.
Okay.
So yeah, they are proposing some improvements to the landscaping all around all 4 perimeters, so it will look better.
Is there any future plans?
That I don't know. You'd have to ask the applicant.
Oh, okay, yes, I would like to do that because that building been there forever. I was so sad when the bowling alley closes, you know, and I think they need to.
Mr. Robinson, are you a bowler? Is that why you're bringing that up? I'm just curious.
No, it was a great place for families to go to, especially in the weekends with kids. You take. I used to go there occasionally, you know, and bring the kids. And I'm not a bowler by any, you know, stretch of the imagination.
I just thought it was one of your many hidden talents. I was curious, yes.
I'm
Yes, sir.
multi-talented.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions for staff? Yes,
I have a
Vernon,
question.
please.
Wasn't there some talk about condemning that building?
That I don't know.
Okay.
There was at one time.
Anything else for staff? Thank you. With that, could we hear from the applicant, please? Name and address for the record, sir, if you would.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Patrick Kennedy, 673 3rd Avenue, Willaca, Florida. Here on behalf of the applicant, 309 Marion LLC. Obviously, we concur with staff's recommendation. You have their analysis. You have some of our documents. And rather than try to restate what's already been stated, I'm just here to try to answer some questions and see if I can help you understand the application if necessary.
Okay, sounds good.
I already know there's some
Patrick.
over here.
So go ahead, Mr. Robinson, we'll start
What
there.
is the future plan for this particular property?
What you need?
I know 3040 Marion has a tenant in mind. I don't have specifically direct knowledge, but he is anxious to but he doesn't want to spend any money towards significant improvements until he knows he has the zoning necessary for the tenant. It's not going to be a bowling alley, that much I'm pretty sure.
Since that's not one
today.
of the uses, Patrick, I think we can be pretty confident of that. Any other questions for the applicant, Mr. Weatherholz, please?
Okay, now, maybe you know. I had heard at one time that they were talking about condemning the building.
I don't know who was talking about it, but it's never been reported to us or my clients, and I represent the property owner before the current owner. Never heard of a condemnation. There were some code enforcement issues we had to resolve before we were allowed to move forward with this application, but that's as much as I know. They will be required to bring it up to code with building permits, and we show the pretty landscaping and all, but the interior, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff's going to be upgraded to current code to move a tenant. The building will be habitable under current code.
Because I was thinking, with a building that old and that age, and you're saying that you're going to bring it up to code, that would be a arduous undertaking and a very expensive undertaking.
I was thinking expensive, yeah.
And so,
That's their choice.
I am not a contractor. I can't speak to it. The building is concrete block, so it's pretty solid. With the kind of roof structure it has, probably some, I don't know that it's doesn't appear to be currently leaking that I'm aware of, but flat roof systems
Well,
may
the
have an
flat roof
issue, but
system like that.
it's pretty wide open. The bowling alley's been completely removed, so the gutting part, I guess, has been done by the prior owner. So putting back in plumbing and electrical to code is doable, but cost and scope is not something I can.
well, see, when you mentioned that they wanted to hold the cost down, that puts me suspect that, with the elimination, they want to hold the landscaping down, but they're going to spend a lot of money
Well,
refurbishing it.
there's a couple reasons for the referring to the building perimeter landscape. We're doing more than is required on the perimeter.
The perimeter.
On the west side especially, and there's a lot of existing trees. We're preserving all the existing trees, and there will be landscaping where those existing trees do not fully cover the requirements of your land development code as far as landscaping. The back portion of the property is going to have a wall with landscaping on the outside of the wall. So you won't even really see the building perimeter from anywhere except head on. And there we're also, as mentioned, we're doing the thoroughfare landscaping, and there will be some landscaping on the building perimeter at the front end.
What shape is the asphalt in the back and on the sides, the entrance and everything?
The asphalt on the back is, at the very back, is in poor shape, and some of that has to be removed to comply with this site plan. The stuff that's in the roughest shape will be removed to add the green space that's necessary on the outside of the wall. The asphalt on the sides is in decent shape, but they're going to have to at least reseal it and restripe it in order for it to. But I don't know. In the front, asphalt is going to have to be cut and possibly completely resurfaced. But again, I'm not the engineer for this project. All that stuff's going to be handled once the rezoning is approved.
Well, like I say, that the striping, parking, you have it physical on the plans there. If you're going to remove the asphalt or whatever, that's going to have to be, to have adequate parking for a building that size.
Yes, and the current parking is adequate for retail in the front and warehouse in the back concept, but whether that's good, and I believe that's what's coming forward, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to commit my client to something that he hasn't told me I'm permitted to commit him to, but it'll be a use that's allowed under the BA, well, I call it BA zoning. All the uses we asked for are currently allowed in BA zoning other than the ones, and we reduced that list substantially, took a lot of them out to address some of staff's concerns. And
Because, see, there's no mention on any of the questions I've asked about what you're willing to do or what you're prepared to do to get
we
the
have to
zoning.
do basically this development agreement is a commitment to do everything your land development code requires. It has to be laid out as shown on this plan with delineated parking. The asphalt has to be in proper condition. All those things will have to be done prior to occupancy. That's what the development agreement in this PD requires.
And I would think that the applicant is well aware of what the potential costs would
Yes.
be, given if this moves forward, they understand what these costs potentially could be.
Yes,
and
he's
are
already working
adequately
with.
prepared to.
He's already working with the engineers and
spend the
getting
money.
some cost estimates and some of the preliminary design issues addressed. Again, I'm not privy to those meetings, but he is working with the folks that will give him the news as far
Okay,
as that's required.
understood.
Yep.
And any other questions, Mr. Robinson? Go right ahead.
Is there any plans to demolish the building?
No, they want to use the current building. It's in good enough shape to be reused.
And the upgrades on the inside?
Upgrades on the inside, paint on the outside, some landscaping outside. They're going to redo the front side in order to accommodate accessibility, handicap ramp accessibility, and so some of the asphalt will be cut, and but you can kind of see faint outline of what's there now will be will be cut down and redone. So there's going to be.
Approximately, what is the timeline?
I can't speak to that. He's wanting to go yesterday because he's got a potential tenant, and that he may lose that tenant if he doesn't get things going.
Okay, because it's been like, what, 9 years
No.
since, 2016?
Yeah, well, again, I don't want to commit, but I know he's chomping at the bit to get this thing going. It's just costing him money now with nothing happening. So.
And no doubt the applicant didn't control this property from 2016. It is
No,
a
sir.
recent
It's a recent
transaction?
acquisition, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
he's only owned it, I think it's been less than a year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right, very good. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, Mr. Kennedy, thank you. Looking here, I don't see any speakers on this item other than Mr. Kennedy. So I'm going to ask for a motion, please, on agenda item 4A.
I make a motion that we approve agenda item 4A, Planned Development, General Rezone DV 2023-333, 660 Mason Avenue. PD. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. You slipping in the...
Yes.
Are we opposed, Mr. Weatherholtz? Okay, thank you. Right, passes, what would be 6-1? Okay. All right, moving forward to item 4B. Madam Secretary, please.
Item 4B, Madison Oaks Planned Development General, PDG. Rezoning DEV 2024-166 quasi judicial hearing.
Thank you very much. You're back.
I am back.
Hi.
Again, Dana Lee
Please.
Pettick, Senior Planner. This item is a request to rezone approximately 4.98 acres of property from the Madison Oaks Residential Planned Unit Development to Planned Development General for the development of a 32-unit townhouse subdivision. So the property is located between North Street and Madison Avenue, east of Margaret Drive. The future land use on the property is level 1 residential. And the current zoning is the Madison Oaks Residential Planned Unit Development, and the proposed zoning is a new Planned Development General. And this is the aerial, which shows the current vacant wooded property. So the property was originally rezoned to the Madison Oaks Residential Planned Unit Development in 2006 for 32 duplex units. The property was never developed, and the PD expired automatically in 2011. This rezone to a new Planned Development General is necessary to reestablish development rights and entitlements on the property. The new Madison Oaks PD proposes 32 townhouse units with development standards specific to a townhouse subdivision. The unit count and overall density proposed is the same as the existing, albeit expired, PD on the property. So this is the PD plan, which shows the proposed townhouse subdivision. And I did want to mention the rezoning includes a request for approval from the City Commission to remove 4 historic oak trees located on the property, subject to the code requirements for preservation and mitigation. 10 historic trees will remain on the property. Removal of historic trees must be approved by the City Commission and is included here for informational purposes only. So this is the PD plan, which highlights the historic trees proposed to be removed pending approval by the City Commission, and they're just shown in red. And the applicant has requested one waiver to modify the dimensional standards for typical townhouse subdivisions to reduce the lot area from 2,000 square feet to 1,750 square feet and increase the maximum building lot coverage from 35% to 40%. However, the Land Development Code does require PDs to establish minimum lot standards, including for lot area and building coverage, and the waiver is not required. So with that, staff recommends the planning board forward the rezone of approximately 4.98 acres from the Madison Oaks Residential Planned Unit Development to the Madison Oaks Planned Development General with a recommendation of approval. A majority vote by the planning board members present and voting is required to recommend approval to the City Commission. And this item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the City Commission for first reading on July 2nd and second reading on July 16th. So thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Any questions for staff? Mr. Robinson, we'll start with you, please.
Is this like a change in name to maybe to extend the agreement?
No, it's a brand new planned development because the previous PD expired in 2011, so it just has an existing expired PD, and our code requires them to do a new PD, basically start over. So it's a brand new rezone. So it's brand new PD, just specific for this.
My concern was that the original PD expired.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking of what was the cause, and is this just...
It was just that it never developed. It automatically expired. It's not like we went in there and canceled it. It just expired automatically.
But I'm trying to figure out, like, why wasn't it developed? And are they just changing the name?
Well, it's 2006 it was approved, so the recession is probably the reason. A lot of PDs from around then expired and were never developed because housing has slowed down a lot.
Okay.
So it's really just the timing.
Can we safely say that the ownership group now is
Yeah.
completely different than the ownership group was in
That's my
2006 that
understanding, right?
expired in
Yes.
11?
Yeah, so it's a brand new
Wanted to be
developer
sure
that's
we,
coming in.
Made that understood.
Yeah, and the original PD, I think, was a duplex
It was duplexes.
development, and this is a townhome development.
It's a little different animal, Mr. Robinson, it appears.
Yeah, I just don't want the same folks just changing the colors and continue with the same behavior. You know,
It would
The
appear
appli-
that's not the
the
case.
applicant's representative.
just to,
A wolf in sheep's clothing.
that if we change the name, we can extend it and keep doing what we were doing before. And then, 10 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, or 14 years down the road, it's the same folks that comes in and expires, and it just keeps going on and on. There has to be some kind of end.
It appears from asking that question that that's not the case here, that they're two separate
That's correct.
entities and don't have any common ownership or anything like that.
It's
I
being
understand
rezoned completely.
your point, but I don't think it applies in this case.
It does not. It's not reactivating the old PD. It's a brand new PD that is being rezoned to with a brand new development agreement
A brand new owner?
and ownership and
Okay.
new ownership.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Thank you very much. Let's talk to the applicant.
Hey guys, Rob Merrill
Hey,
with Cobb
Rob.
Cole for the record, 1 Daytona Boulevard. Starting with you, Milverton, it's a similar project, but totally different people. Same number of units, 32 units is the same as what was approved originally. I've got Jake and Chris here with me from Zev Cohen's. I can tell you more about the details, but they basically used the same footprint, if you will, for the roads and such. But they did, I think, a great deal of sort of restructuring to try to avoid a lot of the trees that are on the property. As you can see from the aerial, this is really an infill piece of property that's surrounded by houses, and I think there's a church on one side, and then there's an auto dealership about a baseball's throw away off of Nova. And it's an infill project, never got developed. It's one of the handful of pieces that we have like this in Daytona, because most everything's now, as you can see, full on the west side. So a lot of these projects are going to be coming back, and this is it's the next place to be able to build something. So it's infill. It's I think what's coming before you is something that's surrounded by mostly houses, and we're bringing you houses, and it was houses back when it got approved originally. So I think it's pretty straightforward. I do know that that I've got folks here, I think, that came to our neighborhood meeting. This is something that Jessica actually has been handling. She's officiating a wedding ceremony today, so doing something more,
She's forgiven, yeah.
more important than us, I think, to at least some people.
Yeah.
So I'm pinch hitting for her, but I can tell you that I think that these guys have gone to great lengths to make sure that the drainage is taken care of on this one. I know that some folks and most folks who come to a piece of property like this that's undeveloped say, we're concerned that it's going to cause flooding, we're concerned that it's going to cause traffic impacts, and all the things that people are concerned about, justifiably, certainly. And frankly, as I sit here and try to think about the people who live in the neighborhood, if this was a big piece of woods that has been there for ever since you lived there, I'd kind of want it to be woods forever myself. But this property, as we mentioned, did have zoning entitlements. And interesting in Daytona and some other jurisdictions, when the zoning goes away for the PD, it kind of leaves you with nothing to do. So you have to come back through the process, and that's what we're doing. We tried to stay as close as we could to what was originally approved, but improved as much as we could. I think originally the site was going to be cleared completely. And what you guys see in a lot of these cases, and you hear a lot of people with negative comments about things that you see in areas where they tear all the trees out and then they plant trees back. In most cases, that's being done because you have to fill so much, you're going to kill the trees anyway. In this case, Jake, who's a master at the tree preservation stuff, has worked around it. You can see the plan even shows like the stormwater ponds working around the trees. And there's going to be some stem walls and things done that actually allow the trees to survive despite the fact that you're having to put some fill where the pads are. He can elaborate, but I think this is a project that's thought out way better than the original one, but with the same number of units. That's kind of what it comes down to. In terms of this is surrounded by all the same future land use, and the allowances in terms of density we're under it, just like everybody around it, all the same density that's allowed. So we're not here asking you for a comp plan amendment. We're not asking for additional density or units. We're asking for what was already there, but improved, I think. So I'm sure there are going to be folks who want to, talk about their neighborhood, and I want to make sure I have the opportunity to respond to any questions.
Very good, Rob.
Any questions you have for me now?
Ask you, I realize you're pinch hitting for Jessica, and we appreciate you being here. And maybe one of the engineering folks we better first ask this question to. On the LDC modification, what looks like a very slight change from 2,000 to 1,750 square feet, the lot coverage from 35 to 40 seems relatively minor to me. My question would be, since it's relatively minor, can't we build the 32 townhouse units without the modification?
So here's the answer, I think, and then Jay can elaborate if necessary if
Okay.
I get it wrong. Jessica's a little smarter than I am, but I think I got this one figured out. So what they did was they actually, and I think a lot of the marketplace is bringing this whole mentality, which is we want less as the homeowner to take care of ourselves. So we put more into the common areas in terms of the areas that are preserved with the trees especially. So we were able to shrink just a little bit on the house itself is what happened. And so in this case, if we didn't divide it in lots, if we did the whole thing as a condominium, we wouldn't have to worry about that, right?
Okay.
So because we're dividing in lots, we have, coverage and the parameters that come from that, from dividing it, are what we're dealing with here. As we've talked about, planning board and I, in cases before, sometimes when a townhome product or a new product comes in like this, maybe you ought to look at the code and see if it works better with that as well. So in any event, the reason for it is really they were designing around those trees and they put a lot of common space around the trees. That's what it came down to.
Okay, so we have a smaller unit, but the same amount of terra firma.
Yeah, less of the owner by the house and more of the common ownership of the green around it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Rob. Any other questions?
That would have been my question. And also, I was just looking over some of the comments that the adjacent neighbors and so forth talked about when you mentioned it, construction impact, talked about existing flooding, traffic issues. If they do develop that, would that impact, and how much of an impact would it have on the neighbors?
Yeah, so again, traffic and drainage are big ones that everybody's concerned about. In this case, we've done the look at the traffic, and I don't think we're going to have any more impact than anybody else. And I understand. I mean, right now there's no cars that come or go from this piece of property. There will be, 32 more homes that have people coming and going. I think that from a connectivity standpoint and an actual circulation standpoint, this is going to free things up a little bit in that neighborhood, which is otherwise a square block row of houses and roads. But I think some folks have talked about, well, maybe don't run the road all the way through. And I think there may be some conversation about that. And I think that ultimately, I think the city has said that they think that it works better, with the full block being open on each end, both fire and ambulance access, and as well as just the overall. I think one of the guys up here said dilution is one of the things you always think about when you're talking about traffic solutions. When you dilute it, it makes it so nobody gets jammed up. It kind of flows better. So that's part of the traffic piece. The drainage piece, Tony, I think I think you guys are pretty well educated on stormwater drainage in Daytona Beach. This is going to abide by the 100-year event. It's going to be tested for the 100-year event. These guys have actually gone. Normally, when we're at the zoning stage, we don't. And Vernon always quizzes everybody on, where we are in this. And normally we're not there yet. And we always tell you that. And you never like that. In this case, I think Chris has pretty much run the numbers on this thing already, and he can tell you how it's going to work. There are some pretty large stormwater ponds, one of which the city is benefited by in this neighborhood. And so I think that he can tell you the nuts and bolts of it if you want to go through that. But we have it worked out so we can actually explain it at this stage, I think. Am I right, Chris? Yeah. Which is unusual. at the zoning stage. So if you want to ask, he's the guy.
Oh, I'll ask him about it.
Okay,
What
come
I'd
on,
like
Chris.
to ask, what I'd like to
Well,
ask
just
you,
roll right into it, Vernon. Go right ahead.
Were you done?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
first of
Thank you,
all,
Tom.
will the city take over this street? Or
It's
will it
gonna
be a
public
private?
street, right? Yeah.
It'll be a private?
It's going to be public street. It's
Public, so no parking on the
Dedicated.
street?
going to be a dedicated public street.
Okay, there's no dimensions on the driveways.
We've just passed over. Okay.
You said dimensions and had to move aside.
If you would, name and address for the record,
Chris
please.
Rowley, 300 Interchange Boulevard,
Chris.
Orm Beach, with Zev Cohen. Also here, Jake Stair. So Jake's the landscape architect behind it all. He's laid it all out. He knows all the dimensions and stuff. I can tell you any flooding questions that you want or any stormwater, but he can tell you the
I'll
dimensions.
get you later.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready for me. Sorry, Jake Stair, Zev Cohen Associates. So all the units have a garage, and they have space behind the sidewalk to park a car. I believe it's about 25 feet. So they'll be able to float
What was the
about
distance?
25, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So there's enough space to have a car in the garage and a car in the driveway. So we've tried to accommodate all that parking within kind of the unit footprint instead of, because we're planning on this being a public street. So we've tried to accommodate that.
Because for the simple reason, all the units are going to have 2 cars. So there's got to be an area, and that was my question is, how long was the area behind the garage?
Yeah.
Where it wouldn't be blocking the sidewalk?
No, we've tried to accommodate that in the design, the layout.
Okay.
So
That's all I have for you.
There you go.
You want Chris?
Next.
Now the drainage.
Now the drainage. Here we go.
No, it looks like you have a good plan. I always want to know, with the retention ponds, you have a good-sized retention pond, but do you have an outfall on it?
we do. So the way that this works is, Nova Canal's the low point. Everything comes up from Nova. We have all those compensating storage ponds there that the city built closer to Nova. The subdivision to the west of ours, most of it has its own drainage system. If you look within the roadways, they have inlets within the roads, and then also along North Street there on the south side. But there are portions of it that flows through our site. So when you look at the contours, it flows basically west to east. If you look, we have a pond all along the west side to capture all of that runoff. We're taking it into our system, and then it is interconnected with our ponds there on the east side. To basically, it'll act as it does now. So as it flows into our ponds, it'll stage up and then overflow and keep flowing that way. The difference is we are capturing that runoff, and then we are also holding it back for the 100-year storm. When it overflows, it'll overflow to the east, or it'll overflow out to North Street's drainage. We have a discharge control structure that'll regulate the flow until it reaches a peak stage, and then it'll flow out to North Street. And we've modeled, as Rob said, the 25-year 24-hour event and the 100-year 24-hour event.
Because you're basically leaving the lot itself at the existing elevation, the topo.
Yeah.
And you're just building the stem walls to raise the houses.
Exactly. And the swale on the west side is actually a foot higher than the swale on the right side, because just naturally as it flows down.
The way that it flows
So
down.
if we ever were to stage up too high, it would always emergency overflow to the east before it would ever go to the west, because it's a foot difference.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else for the applicant? Here's one last question for Mr. Ross.
It's more like a comment. I appreciate the fact that you guys held the neighborhood meeting close to the neighborhood, and you had a fairly good turnout. And and reading the comments and so forth, I trust that you're going to take into consideration the neighbors' comments and their concerns, and you'll address that in time. But I appreciate your. This is what I like to
You
see.
may hear from some of the.
I like to see, I like to see them, where you have your meetings close, where the neighbors, the actual neighbors who's going to be affected can attend and give their voices heard.
I think the ladies who held the meeting tried to answer the questions as best they could.
So-
And if they have more that they're here
Oh,
to
yeah.
ask, I'll try to do my best as
Yeah.
well with these guys.
Mr. Rapp is just making your point. The initial mailing for that meeting on May 13th of last year was mailed out to 103 residents or entities, and 17 came by, making your point that the response was very good, pretty close to 20%.
A lot of times we only get like These two.
These two.
You guys done with me?
With that, anything else for Rob? Rob, thanks, appreciate it. We do, speaking of which, we do have a few folks that would like to speak on this item. First, I'd like to have Tom Hill Sr., please come up. And remember, like your name and address for the record, Mr. Hill, if you would. Good evening.
Good evening. I am Tom Hill Sr. I live at 1061 North Street. They said that this was rezoned back in 2006, I'm sorry. We were never aware of it. It's a single family home neighborhood. We would like to keep it that way. And the reason being is that on paper and all that they said sounds good, but I've been living there since the 80s. It's a family home that I bought. Over the years, I constantly see each year the level of water that's coming up. The city does a great job maintaining the stormwater system. However, it's not going to accommodate what they're trying to build. Right now, Mark Street floods, and it doesn't have to be a hurricane, just regular storm. Mark Street floods. The house that was on the corner of Mark and North on the west end, they had to tear it down. The city actually, I believe, purchased it and made that retention pond. So we're not, that runoff and all that stuff, that's not going to work. My brothers, both my brothers, two of my brothers, did stormwater, sewer, and water lines from the state of Florida to Anchorage, Alaska. I've been around this all my life. There's no way possible that this building 32 units in front of 4 or 5 houses, the amount of traffic they're going to create is going to wreak havoc on us. We don't want the traffic. We welcome growth, but positive growth. Put single family homes. Think about the flooding. Right now, we don't have to carry flood insurance, but when you start putting concrete structures, it's going to create runoff, and the retention is only going to do so much because where we're located is actually lower. We're between Nova Road and we're between White Street and Colfax, and it actually goes down. That water doesn't go anywhere. That water is now coming up over the curb of my driveway right now, where when I first got there, it would drain down. The houses on Madison Avenue that's been built and on Westmoreland, those houses are at least 1.5 to 2 foot. My best friend just had a home built at 1108 Madison Avenue on Westmoreland. If you're looking at from the front of his house to the back of his house, that new house that's developed almost look like it's to the roof of his house. The new developments are higher, and I get it, they have to be. But think about the people that are here. We're not trying to stop growth, but we want positive growth. Single family home. I don't want to look out my kitchen and look at a parking lot or apartment buildings or townhomes. I want to look at a single family home. I don't want my homeowner's insurance to go any higher than what it has already. All of our neighbors, we do well trying to keep up our neighborhood. And again, we welcome homes, not apartment buildings, not townhomes, because you're putting 32 units in between that small area. 4.96 whatever acres sounds like a lot, but when you put concrete home structures, even if you're putting runoff, it's not going to accommodate what we have. Because right now, if you take a ride, any rain event, Mark Avenue is closed. I know because I called and try to have barricades put up to keep cars from going through, flooding out homes. Colfax area now is starting to flood a little bit more than it did several years ago. Madison Avenue, yes, they had that retention pond, but when we had our storms, it all overflowed. These valves and all this stuff that they're talking about putting in, our drainage system works with the river and the ocean. When it's high tide, that water can't go out. It cannot go out. So where's that water going to come? To the lowest areas, and that's us right now. So all we're doing, we're begging for help. Help us keep our homes. In our last meeting, we were talking about the roadway, the traffic. That's not a good design. Right now, I email used to constantly one of the lieutenants with the police department because of the speeding coming through. We've had a car that was racing off of Nova Road, headed west, and ran out into the woods. If you put a roadway through, that's just an access for them to get from North to Madison a lot quicker with kids in the area. I have over 30 grandkids who come periodically at my home. I don't want them to get run over. I was coming home when the young lady got killed. I went to school with her father on North Nova and North Street. I was there when the car ran down North Street, hit the bus on, I believe it's White Street, and someone was decapitated years ago. I was there with the accident on Madison Avenue. I actually called prior to. We're getting older, and we're trying to get things settled down a little bit. They had speed bumps.
Mr. Hill, could I ask you to wrap it up if you don't mind?
Okay, please think about us. Please think about the residents here. We welcome growth, but growth in a positive direction. We want single-family homes, not townhomes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next is Jenny Nazak. Jenny, hi.
Good evening, everybody. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. I do appreciate how many of the historic trees are being retained, and I like the smaller house, the home size, reflecting that people don't need as much space. You know, the people are wanting to downsize a bit. I would also say we could start questioning the assumption that every unit is necessarily going to have 2 cars. People are sharing more. People don't have as much money. People are trying to, consolidate, accommodate. And flooding is getting worse. Impervious cover is a problem. I think we should start having new development have less parking, have like 1 space per unit, or, have them and use pervious pavement, things like that. So, and also, if we started with every new development, if we started collecting rainwater off of all of the roofs of the buildings from now on, I mean, that's an awesome thing to do anyway. I completely depend on the rainwater I collect off my house. It's awesome. But if we start doing it with all the new developments and let the rainwater percolate gradually during the dry season, it'd be very beneficial. And there's a lot of ecological stuff that sounds, too much nature or something, but it's really good in the urban environment, and we should start thinking about those kinds of things. I do think infill development's good, and it's nice to see townhouses and apartments in with the mix, but I sympathize with the concerns of the residents about the flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Next is Marion Harvey. I hope I got that right. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. The original meeting at the one Daytona, I think I heard 11 times they had mentioned single-family homes. So we were all getting excited at first. We had a larger crowd at the one Daytona first meeting. I think I heard single-family homes 11 times. I had to repeat that. So we were getting excited thinking we're going to get single-family homes, maybe 16 of them. So we were all excited. They never did really say what it was going to be. So today is my first time really hearing them say they're going to be townhomes or apartments or low-income housing projects. I'm not even still real sure exactly what they say it's going to be, because they were saying...
Could I interrupt you briefly?
Yes, you
could
can.
I ask you to give us your name and address,
Marion Harvey, 1071 Madison Avenue.
Thank you.
I'll be the closest.
Okay.
I'll be the closest.
Okay.
I can walk right there. As soon as you look to my right, it'll be
Yes,
right
ma'am.
there.
Got you.
So again, where was I? Okay, single-family homes. They said that 11 times at the one Daytona meeting, having all of us thinking we were going to get single-family homes in the area. So we were getting excited because I think we need more single-family homes. This city has built more apartments in the last 12 months than, I promise, I've never seen anything like it. And from LPGA that way, what's that, north? I've never seen so many apartments go up in my life. So why not single-family homes in our residential area? I just think it'll be a great asset to the community, for the people. I just feel like it'll be a great asset in that area. But when you start getting into this, calling them townhomes, actually, we all know our property values are going to drop. It's not going to go up. They tell you it's going to go up, but I promise you, they're not going to go up. They start putting those low-income housing in there and all of the other stuff that comes along with it, and the flooding. Oh my God, we're going to have flood insurance. It used to not be recommended, but now it's going to be, recommended that we have flood insurance. Anyone knows anything they're building, it's up higher. They just built a couple of houses, maybe 3 blocks from Madison Avenue, and they're definitely way up. I'm already at the bottom of the hill. If you're coming down Madison Avenue from the park, I'm the last house on your right. So you're like driving down to my home. I'm the last house on your right. So everything comes to me. If it could rain now for an hour, you can swim in front of my house for 2 days already, right now. So I can only imagine what will happen. So I just please ask that it's single-family homes, we're all for it. We want growth. Okay, I've got 8 grandkids. I would love to have some growth. So all of these here townhomes and so and so, we already know what it is. It's another little Soul City, another little small project. And I came from the projects. I am a product of the project. So I have nothing against low-income housing, but I didn't move there to come out my front door and drink my coffee and look at it, or sit up in my bed at night and read my Bible and get shot in the head from something. So I just please consider single-family homes. You said it 11 times that night. I just hope you end up doing single-family homes instead of apartments. We have too many.
Thank you,
Thank
Marion.
you.
Appreciate it. Next is Josephine Pope, please. Josephine. And ma'am, just a reminder to, if you state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Josephine Pope, and I live at 1080 Margaret Drive in Daytona Beach, Florida. I stay on Margaret at the very dead end. I've been having a lot of problems ever since, I have more problems since they cleared the land, and then the land grew back up. But back there, it floods. It floods all the way to my neighbor house, which he's in 1082. And so when it rains, I'm like treading water myself. And then my house sits a little up, so you could tell the water comes all the way about 1/4 of the way to my property, on my property. And you can see it once it settles down. I have to actually get out there because the city don't come right away. So I have to actually get out there, put on rain boots, and get a rake, a tater rake or something, and pull the water and, pull the leaves and stuff off of the drain, or make sure that it's draining, because if I don't, the water will come way past there. It's already up to my cars and stuff. So the drainage over there is really a big problem. And I don't know if they're thinking about putting some sort of fence to divide the property or whatever, because I stay on that end, and I myself, I have a lot of problems right now, and been having them for years, because if somebody else used to stay in the neighborhood and they keep coming there breaking in my house. And so I got a problem with that, and right now I got extra people that's living in the woods, that all night and all day you hear commotion. I try to talk to the police about it. They too scared to go out there, too scared to send somebody out there, even a dog or whatever, like I'm illusional. And I hear this stuff going on all the time. But like I say, as far as the flooding and stuff, yes, I would like to have single family homes because people take care of their houses more better. And with that said, I know myself that I deal with this because the city do not come help me clean off the drainage that runs all the way to Halifax River. I do it myself, and I do it a lot because when it rains back there, I have a big problem. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, John Nicholson. Mr. Nicholson, please. There you are. Evening, John.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granview Avenue. 40 years ago when I got here, the big comment was everything's moving west, all right? We're losing Olive, Beach Street, we're losing Main Street, we're losing 2nd Avenue. People are moving out, and they've continued to move out. About 2-3 years ago, they were talking about affordable housing. The mayor doesn't want any affordable housing west of Nova Road. He wants it all out west, all right? So I drove through Midtown, the area from Holly Hill to South Daytona, west of Clyde or east of Clyde Morris. There are so many vacant lots you wouldn't believe it. So Jack White has this concept about infill, and he did. He built a community right in Magnolia. All right, we need bodies in town. We really do. We need infill. This property at 5 acres would allow for 20, 25 homes. This is a few homes more. In addition to that, are these rental townhomes or are they ownership townhomes? If they are ownership, then people own them. It's better than rental. Now, we had this argument, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, 2001, you might remember, when LPGA was coming, they were talking about Cardinal Estates. And the people that were there are like, no, we don't want those people in my neighborhood, all right? Cardinal Estates is going to be terrible. It's going to drop my property values. Well, lo and behold, Cardinal Estates is more valuable than the homes that were there, all right? The homes that are coming in are not going to be less. Because at the end of my street, they put a parking garage. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want a parking garage at the end of my street. Next year, $7,000 increase in my house. They built the building across from it, $38,000 increase in my house. So the more buildings that are coming in, my value keeps going up and up and up. So the value of these homes are not going to go down. They will go up. Secondly, they're saving the trees. If they put houses in there, they would bulldoze all of it. There wouldn't be a tree standing. The idea that they're saving these trees in that canopy, these people don't realize how much water that these trees suck up. So if they put trees in there, the water would be even greater than they have now. With the trees that they're leaving behind, it will suck up a great deal of that water. So I'm asking you to okay this because, one, we need infill. We really do need infill. Plus, the business owners in the area need these bodies to keep their businesses alone. Because Midtown is having a really difficult time keeping their businesses there because people keep moving out. And every time they move out, they tear down a building and there's fewer and fewer people. All right? So I'm asking you to okay this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm not showing any other green forms for this location. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item before I ask Rob to come up and respond to some of the folks that have been said? Seeing none? Rob, come on up. Let me just ask you before you jump in, owners or rentals, what are we doing here?
No, these are owned, and I wanted to start to clarify a little bit about the product we're talking about here. So this is a variety of single family, if you will. It's not apartments. We are not coming in to build apartments that are going to be rented by somebody who owns all the buildings. That's not it. These are going to be individually owned buildings, some of which, and Jake, if you wouldn't mind, have party walls, if you know what that means. In other words, they have walls that the house is next to the other house, and they're right against each other. So these are people that can own these houses. Now, if somebody owns a house, Mike, you're maybe your homeowner association is different, but without a homeowner association, you can rent your house, but it has to be rented for a certain period of time in Daytona Beach. So this is not rental in the sense that it is an apartment project that people are living there renting everybody. But if somebody wants to rent their house because they moved to Europe for the year, they can do that, I think, in Daytona Beach, just about anywhere. So I want to be clear. It's not a rental project, but someone could rent their house if they wanted to. Anybody could. So just to be clear.
Rob, before you continue, was this information shared at the neighborhood meeting?
Yeah, I think that it sounded to me like there's some confusion. I wasn't there, Mike.
Okay, I thought you might know.
Go ahead. Jake was there.
Please, Jake, please, one meeting,
Here's an
folks.
extra
Thank you.
copy if you want to look back on the copy. This is an extra copy.
He knows it.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, the elevations
Jake,
were.
give me a quick
Jake Stairs,
name and
Zev Cohen Associates.
You know the
sorry.
deal, thanks.
The elevations were not developed at that time. You know, it's been like a year, as you stated. So we've continued to work and refine. We did have a site plan map. So, you know, if there's some confusion about what we were proposing, you know, I chalked it up to, you know, sometimes it's hard to communicate when you're sitting in a room with 17 people and you're trying to share. But we did have a site plan and a board and a presentation similar to what you've seen today.
Similar
the plan
similar to
itself-
what I'm looking at here?
Not the elevations, the actual
Okay.
plan.
The plan hasn't changed.
My
This-
point, gentlemen, would be if the latest information that you have, it would make sense to somehow assimilate it to folks so they can make an informed
And
decision.
we can share this with them. I think what we're trying to impress upon them is we're not building apartments here, and I think that was the feeling. This is a one of the reasons why it's a product that is not a lot of house on one lot is because we're trying to preserve some of that natural area that surrounds it, that where the trees are, and so. I think it's going to result in a product that they're going to like better in the end, even though it's not what they call traditional single family, where there's one house with a lot around it, next house with a lot around it. This has 2 or 4 houses that are within the same building that has lawn around it. Those are 2 different products that people want, they like, and as John was saying, I think Jenny was saying, sometimes people want something a little smaller. They don't mind having a green around them that somebody else is taking care of, or an association is, and they're going to have their own little space and they want to maintain that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's going to be something that's detrimental to the value of these other folks' properties. And I'll tell you, it's not designed as an affordable housing project. That's not what's here. I'm an advocate for affordable housing. I think it's important. I think we need it in Daytona Beach. That's not this project, though. So several of the folks that spoke brought that up, but I don't want to say it's a bad thing. It's not this, though. I think that's I want to be clear about that. So rental, townhome. So flooding, is okay. Traffic. So this project is the reason why you don't see a traffic report on this is because it's such a small thing that it doesn't give rise to a traffic analysis. It is what it is. It's 32 homes. We know by definition it's whatever the trips are. It's in the IT manual. It's not very much, so it doesn't even reach the threshold of doing an analysis. That's kind of the answer there. So small, doesn't even require a traffic report. So
What about flooding?
in terms of flooding, though, so Jake, good news because Vernon would have grilled us anyway, so I put it right out there. We normally don't do the drainage analysis at a zoning stage. We know we have to do it. In this case, both the 25-year and the 100-year flood, and I can appreciate the gentleman who had some experience in stormwater, I guess, I appreciate that if it's not done right, it's not going to work. And I heard one of the other folks say, she actually maintains her drainage areas, and I had to do the same thing in my yard when the flood came this past time. Keeping things cleared off allows the water to drain. And so in this case, he talked about a series of culverts, of ditches and ponds and the way it flows. And to me, that made a lot of sense. But he is the expert. So if you guys want to ask him any more about it, I think what you have here is you have his seal certified on these plans where you know what that means. I mean, in other words, if it doesn't work, that's on him, right? And they've been doing this for a very long time. Zev Cohen and Associates is an engineering firm that's been around here for more than I've been doing this for 40 years. So they know their business. They've done a lot of projects in Daytona Beach and Volusia County, and they all work as far as I know. So I think they're good for it. I think his seal is good for it, and I think that's what you get. Now, I understand no matter what I say or an engineer might say, the folks that live there might be skeptical, but I think that's part of the nature of the beast because a lot of people have been flooded. So. And I'm sorry that there has been some historic flooding in this area. A lot of times, in my experience in dealing with a lot of projects, it has to do with maintenance of the systems that are there, and it has to do with whether the systems that were put in place were, to the code that we now all live by. In most cases, the older properties were not. That's part of the problem.
All right, very good. I appreciate it, Rob. Any other questions, Mr. Robinson?
I guess this is for the engineers.
Yeah.
The neighbors have expressed a concern in terms of the product that you bring in.
Sure.
And they're saying they want single-family homes.
Sure.
What I'd like you to explain, and I would like to know also, the difference between the single-family home and your townhomes in terms of the impact on the flooding or the traffic. What's the difference? If you're building townhomes or a single home, is there any?
So the traffic is generally the same, like
Okay.
the amount of the demand that comes from a single versus townhome of this size.
Okay.
As far as flooding, this would actually be a better product because it's a smaller footprint. So they're attached. They don't have as much space for, outdoor patios or pools or, things of that nature that would increase the impervious area. So it becomes more efficient. And so if it was 32 single family homes, it would likely have more impervious area than this would.
And more cars.
And more cars.
Is it going to be a gated community?
It is not, no.
Okay. And it's not affordable housing or low income. It's going to be, so in other words, part of the impact then would be maybe their tax might increase on their property because if your product is going to, like John was saying, that they build something and his property went up $7,000 and then they built something else and his property value went up $38,000. How does that impact their taxes? Just an estimate. I don't know. Yeah, I know you know.
So I'll say two things. One,
yeah.
Intuitively, new housing is more expensive. It definitely is more expensive, and it creates more tax value. In my experience, that's a ripple effect. And I think the property appraiser, who I know personally, would say the same thing. The second thing I would say is there. In my experience, I've had plenty of people say, my property taxes are going to go up as a result of this. Well, you know what that means? Their property value has gone up. And people don't want their taxes to go up. I don't want mine to go up. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? I mean, it's your value is going up, your taxes are going to go up. And I'm sorry for that, but I'm raising your values for you. So
in the end, whether it be a single family or a townhomes, the impact would be the same.
The impact's going to be, there's going to be, all boats rise with the tide. Now, Milverton, if we were doing apartments there, I can understand that there's more of a contrast between those types of housing products. This is almost the same thing.
And there'll be homeowners, not rentals.
Homeowners, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Bahu, I know you
pretty much
John,
comment.
chip in, please.
Part of my comment is I've heard it on this board and discussion that we're building smaller units because people want more or want less and always want less. Not everybody want less. Some people want more. So I think when you start looking at building less, it makes your pocket bigger because it talks about $1 for a lot of it because you put more houses in a smaller area, you sell it for more. The income is more. So that's not necessarily true that we want less. There are some people that want more. But the question I have, my concern about this unit, the party wall. We're building houses so close, so we used to have 25 feet setbacks, and now it's 10 feet, and now it's 5 feet, and now with lot line. With this button up, how would it impact the neighbors, those things? Party walls, does that mean sound barrier? What is it?
We have, certainly in this county, but in other counties, we have people with party walls that have multi-million
I don't know what it is.
multi-million-dollar homes that have party walls. It's people try to slice it up so it looks like it's something bad.
No, I'm just
some of the nicest condominiums in this state have party walls.
What is a party
Somebody
wall?
can knock on the wall,
Right.
but there are millions of
that's what does it mean?
It means that you've got a unit that butts up against another unit with no space in between it.
Okay.
But can I hear you when you use your bathroom? If I'm cooking in my kitchen, would you hear what I'm frying?
So it depends how you insulate it, Tony. I'm not the contractor. But so I think what I would say is there's a housing product for everybody, and because somebody's doing something that's a different form, whether it's smaller or bigger, if somebody wants a bigger house with more yard around it, go get a lot at LPGA.
Yeah, I'm not even questioning that, Rob. My question is, how does it impact the neighbors? If I were to buy one or somebody else were to come in and 3 or 4 of us living in there, what type of impact would it be from neighbor to neighbor? What type of
Okay, so you mean the neighbors that actually live there?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's all I need.
Those people are buying. That's what they want. I mean, so so a lot of times when I say we, when you say we, you're thinking us. The people that are making decisions about what should happen.
No, I'm thinking about our community, our citizens.
Okay, well, I'm with you on that then. So at the end of the day, though, what I try to say is, governmental decisions about what should or shouldn't happen, really need to think about what the marketplace is doing.
And I understand that, sir. I guess what I'm trying to understand, party walls. I don't know what I know what it is. I know, but is it insulated to the point that what I do in my apartment doesn't affect what you do in your apartment?
So here's what I'll say.
It's about the
The
quality of
people
life.
the people that
maybe Dennis, you can help
the
me
people that are
understand.
in this business want to be able to sell these units.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ask the engineer.
Yeah.
If we ask the engineer what a party wall
Yeah, I
is.
just want to know what it is.
Yeah.
Any,
I don't know
anytime
either.
you have an apartment or a condominium or something that has multiple units that have a wall that's shared, they insulate them real well, so you can't hear what your neighbor's doing. I mean,
Okay, that's what it means.
intuitive.
I've lived in apartments and I've heard neighbors, so I was just trying to find out. That's
if you that's back in college, Tony. They
And
had
we're not in a while there.
crappy little walls, so you could hear.
And Pastor Barhu, we're not
Yeah.
talking about apartments here. You may be in your example, but I just wanted
the
to know
item
the
is not an
definition,
apartment.
Rob. That's all. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
and I want to, tag along. Maybe the engineer can explain. When you build an apartment, there is some space.
Yeah.
Are your townhomes going to be structured like
on up, Chris.
apartments so that you don't get into? It's a quality of life issue
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That I don't want to hear what goes on in my neighbors. When I was in New Jersey and we lived in the row houses, there was a space between the houses, but I could hear everything that was going on with my neighbors.
Right.
And it seems that Northern concept is just creeping into our life here that we left up north to come down here. So when you talk about a party wall or the distance between the homes, right? What is the quality? Am I going to be able to have privacy?
He's trying to look at the walls
Okay.
now, but my eyes can't see it. He's got
Yeah,
glasses,
that's why
so
we
we're trying
asked
to figure
it.
it out.
Yeah, let's engineer explain.
It really doesn't show.
Yeah.
It doesn't
really
show
show it.
a party wall.
Yeah.
So there's a foundation plan on there, and you can
Yeah,
see on
let's
there.
go.
It looks like they're basically like double walled, is what it looks like.
Oh.
So, but like Rob said, it would be very similar to what an apartment is, and I can only say that as we get further in building and time, it only gets better. You know, our codes get stricter, all that. So, back in our college days in apartments, I'm sure it was much softer. You could hear there.
So, Mr. Engineer, what you're saying then, you're basically building an apartment but giving it a new moniker in order because the product
Apartments
sells
are
better.
typically-
The townhome sells better than an apartment,
Yeah,
right?
do you have the picture?
I
I just want to see,
this one
does it
right
look
here?
like an apartment to you? So you look
Yeah,
like an apartment,
yeah.
you would see a lot of windows, a lot of doors, a
Can
lot
Dennis-
of bigger roof.
Yeah.
It's
Can you
it's
help
big,
define-
this is
It's
not
a
a big
bigger
building.
apartment.
This is a building the size of a big single-family home that has a wall in the middle that people are sharing it.
Well, then why
Some
not
people
give them
call them paired,
space?
some people call them paired villas.
Yeah,
Some people call them
yeah.
duplex. So it's just not a bad thing, Milverton.
I didn't say it was, Mr. Rao.
it's-
I did not say it was. What I'm saying to you is, okay, if you're telling me that, it's almost like a home, why not give them the space between the homes?
That's just not the
Because that's
product.
not what
I mean,
they're building.
so when someone comes to check out the model home
Yeah.
to buy the unit, they can knock on the wall and see what it feels like. I mean, so it really comes down to the people that are going to be living here are going to buy these, and they get to see it. And if they like it, they like it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Nobody's going to force them to live there.
Yeah.
Can I clear this up a little bit?
Would you please?
Please.
Usually, code requires a firewall between each unit.
Right.
The firewall normally, if it's framed with 2x6. It's got 5/8 inch drywall on each side and insulation on the center.
Right.
And that's a requirement. It's a sound barrier and a firewall.
Okay.
And if they build it to code, which I know they are, it should give you some deafening. I mean, I guess if somebody's screaming there, you could probably hear it, but it would be fairly good. It's not a block wall. It doesn't appear to be a block wall. And so I didn't see any poor cylinders in it on the, and I'm a general contractor and engineer.
So Vernon, if I could ask you a question, your professional opinion, if these walls are built to code, would that be, in most cases, adequate?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, we'll move smartly forward. All righty. Okay. Before I ask for a motion on this item, folks, I did want to mention something that for for my fellow members to think about. Let's remember that this lot right now is thick and densely wooded. In fact, we had Ms. Pope came up earlier and talked about break-ins in her property and perhaps calls to the police department. Perhaps there may be other things going on in a dense, thick area where, in comparison to that, at least in my view, this would be a great positive change. You can at least, you take a look at that, the aerial, and look at that property. You can't see a thing. Now, I'm not saying who or what's going on there. I would have no idea, but I think we've seen in other areas of the city that has been the case. So I'd ask you folks to give that some thought as we decide where we're going to go with this. So with that, I'd ask for a motion, please, on item 4B.
You've dealt with all this.
Okay, I make a motion that we
Yep, dealt with
approve
all.
item
Please,
4B, Planned Development, General Zoning, rezoning DV 2024-166, Madison OPD.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Approved unanimously.
Sorry to take so much time.
No. You guys have a good evening. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to item 4C. Madam Secretary, please.
Item 4C.
Just hold on just a second as people make their way out. Have a good evening, folks.
If I could, folks, also, this is, the planning board is an advisory board to the city commission. The item will go to the city commission for approval, so be on the lookout for that.
With that, back to item 4C, please.
Item 4C, West Speedway Preliminary Plat, DEV 2024-694, quasi-judicial hearing.
Thank you very much, Luke. Good evening.
Subdivision preliminary plat. This is a request by Daniel LaRosa of Lennar Homes LLC on behalf of Malcolm Jones III of LPGA Venture Holdings LLC to approve a preliminary plat for 162 lots for single-family homes. This will include all stormwater, road, and utility infrastructure. The site is approximately 78.83 acres, located north of West International Speedway Boulevard and south of Grand Champion Boulevard. There is the site location. The future land use is level 2 residential. The zoning is a Planned Development General. And the current conditions you can see are vacant. This is the platting for 78.83 total acres, resulting in a proposed 162 lots for single-family homes. This pre-plat includes stormwater, road, and utility infrastructure. The land is currently vacant. The West Speedway PD agreement rezoning was approved by the City Commission on June 5th, 2024. The PD is called West Speedway Town Center Plan District Agreement. There you can see the plat map for those 162 lots. Staff recommends the approval of major subdivision preliminary plat for the West Speedway project to allow the development of 162 lots for single-family homes on 78.83 acres of vacant land north of West International Speedway Boulevard. A majority vote of the planning board members present and voting is required to recommend approval to the City Commission.
Very good, Luke. I suppose this wouldn't be the time to talk about how we could convert these to townhomes.
I don't know if we have time.
Just trying to inject a little humor into the process here. Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Again,
Please, Tony.
Question lot sizes, and I know we've been doing a lot of these, and it looked like it's just 50 feet minimum by 20 by what, 120? I'm just trying to make sure. Was it 2.5 feet side to side? Is that our standard, Dennis? I mean, that's what we have gone
50 foot,
to?
50 foot is actually a standard size lot
is
in
the
the city of
standard.
Daytona Beach. But,
same thing.
yeah, but
Okay.
just a reminder that this PD agreement had those sizes, and
Yeah.
that's what the city commission had approved for this property.
Right, but I've noticed more and more.
50, yeah. We've seen some go to 40, but
Yeah.
our standard single-family zoning district has a 50-foot wide lot.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Luke? Seeing none, thank you, sir. And, all right, well, no, we don't have any speaker forms, so I think we can move right into asking for a motion on item 4C, please.
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve item 4C, West Speedway pre-plat DEV 2024-694 preliminary plat for overall subdivision.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we are removing item 4D, so we're moving on to item 4E. Madam Secretary, please.
Sure. Item 4E, standards for specific principal uses, Land Development Code Text Amendment, DEV 2025-299.
Thank you very much. Dennis, this is your baby, right?
Yeah, that'll be me.
Okay.
And thank you guys, I appreciate it. Our guys in the back are working the remote for me.
Yeah.
So this is a request by Growth Management and Planning Department, the Planning Division, to amend sections 52B18 and 52B24 of the Land Development Code to clarify kitchen equipment requirements and for establishments serving alcohol, and to remove prohibitions for advertising and signage allowances for hotel and motel accessory uses. So this is a modification to required kitchen equipment for restaurants and specialty eating and drinking establishments in the city that do serve alcohol. It'll clarify the types of kitchen equipment required for restaurants. Ovens and stoves with hoods and fire suppression systems are not required for all types of restaurants and specialty eating and drinking establishments. But the code would require that for them to install, which it created a hardship for some of the developments or local business owners. So we're proposing a change to actually make the oven and stoves, if they're required as part of the restaurant, they're going to have the hood suppression systems per Florida building code. So on the top you see what the current code says, has the establishment shall contain an oven or stove with a hood and fire suppression system. We're actually going to change that to say that when installed as part of the commercial kitchen, oven and stoves are required to include the hood and fire suppression system in accordance with the Florida Building Code. So that does remove the hardship that some of these restaurants. And I'll point out that some of these things, we have some sandwich shops that wanted to come in a couple locations. Specialty eating and drinking include things like ice cream shops, coffee shops. Maybe they want to have some alcohol associated with that. They can't do that because they have to install the ovens and the stoves and the hoods as well. And it just isn't necessary.
Shops, when I take my kids there, I can get me a margarita or a beer. Well, then doesn't that kind of change
the Land Development Code allows, under certain circumstances, for these places to be able to serve alcoholic beverages, but they have to follow a certain standard. This is just one of the standards. There's other standards that they would have to follow. One of the standards, though, however, is saying if you have an ice cream shop, you have to have an oven or a stove. And it's just not necessary for that business. So that's why we're removing it and saying.
So it has nothing to do with the alcohol part.
Well,
I mean, is it an ice cream shop or is it a alcohol serving establishment?
Well, I know. There's a wonderful dessert place in Orlando, in Orlando, which is fantastic. They serve desserts and they serve alcohol with that. So you go, you get a dessert, you get a nice brandy or a cognac or a glass of wine. Can't do that if the alcohol is not permitted. So that's why the Land Development Code was written in a way years ago to allow these establishments to be able to have some alcoholic beverages if somebody wanted to have that. So, different from going to Ben and Jerry's with the kids and getting a 6-pack of beer.
Alcohol
with
and
it,
ice cream.
Yeah, not
Something
terrible.
to think about. No,
Yeah.
certainly not.
Sounds good.
Anything else for Dennis?
Well, hang on, I got one more thing.
Oh, you do. Go right ahead.
The LDC text amendment is 2 parts. That was one
That's
part.
right, I'm sorry.
The other part is actually a legal requirement. The current land development code prohibits outside advertising or signage for accessory uses to a hotel, even when the accessory use is allowable use in the zoning district. The restriction may expose the city to potential litigation. So after discussion with our legal staff and with our other staff, is determined that this is something that we probably shouldn't be having in the code anyway. So we're going to take that where you see the red, which is currently in the code, outside advertising, the prohibition. They'll be allowed to do advertising and signage for the use. It's a permitted use. They should be able to advertise this. This does not increase the amount of signage that they can have. That doesn't increase the number of signs they can have. It's whatever signs that they're allowed to currently have. It's just the content of that sign. They'd be able to advertise all of the businesses that are located within this hotel. So we're going to be removing that as well. Staff does recommend approval of the request to amend sections 52B18 and 52B24 of the Land Development Code. Majority vote of the planning board members present and voting is required to recommend approval to the City Commission. And we're expecting this item to go to City Commission for first reading on July 2nd and for second reading on July 16th. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks,
Anything
guys.
else for him?
No way to vote it?
Yeah, I think, let's do that. That is a really good idea, Mr. Barhu. All right, with that, if I'd ask for a motion for, I'm sorry, no, we will not, because we do have a speaker form. My apologies, John. Mr. Nicholson would like to weigh in on this
He
subject.
sneaked up on us.
Sir, you know the routine, please.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. As I've spoken on this issue probably 30 times in the last 30 years, we had a problem on Main Street with the idea that by law, if you had a restaurant license, you had to serve 51% food. All right? The problem on Main Street is that our restaurants aren't restaurants. And there's no way, with the amount of liquor that they sell on Bike Week and Biketoberfest, they can make up the difference during the year. All right? So we started this little facade of allowing them to have $10,000 worth of kitchen equipment, all right? Which they did for, 5-10 minutes until the staff left and then the kitchens came out, all right? And staff would never go back and say, oh, you're supposed to have this kitchen in order to sell liquor. So Main Street Cafe has now gone 27 years without a kitchen, all right? Teresa Doan has Full Moon Saloon, which has a pizza oven, which is her full kitchen. Who else? Oh, and then it jumped over to Seabreeze, and they did not have kitchens because it wasn't allowed on Main Street. They didn't check, so they didn't check on Seabreeze. And Seabreeze now has like a whole strip of bars which are actually restaurants without kitchens. So what you're now saying is, well, although we did that and they're not abiding by it, what we'll do is we'll make it even easier so that they don't abide by it. So now all they have to do is say, I want a sandwich shop. So they don't even have to pay the $2,000 for the liquor license. So before, instead of paying $200,000 for a liquor license, they could get a restaurant license for $2,000. Now, you don't need that. You can just pay the $400 for the license to have food. So we're going down and down and down and down. So anybody now can serve liquor, hard liquor, almost on anything. So is this what you want now? It's not going to be just Main Street now. Because they thought, it's only going to be Main Street. Then it went to Seabreeze. And it kept moving, all right? So if you want it on Martin Luther King, if you want it on MMB, if you want it on anywhere else in residential neighborhoods, pass this, because they're assuming that we're going to have these cutesy little upscale dessert bars. No. They hit you with the last time that, oh, they wanted the boutique wine bars. Remember? You remember the wine bars. How many wine bars have you seen? So I'm asking you to look at this very carefully before you do that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I have a question for Dennis. I'm opening up a sandwich shop today. When I do that, am I going to be able to sell alcohol out of that sandwich shop?
You have to meet all of the requirements associated with serving alcohol in the Land Development Code. This was just one of those. You still have to have the full kitchen. You still have to have the commercial refrigerator, so you're not going to Lowe's and buying a refrigerator and putting it in using that. You still have a commercial refrigerator, commercial freezer. It's just whether or not the oven or the stove is actually needed for the particular type of restaurant that you're having.
Would it be fair to say that in other situations like this, that the follow-up, as John mentioned, may not be as good as we would like?
Well, it's sure there's always that potential, but what we've been seeing from, and this actually started with with P&L and with some other discussions with redevelopment, that we've had businesses come in that just can't come up with the necessary capital to be able to put the equipment in to be able to open up some businesses in some of these areas that actually need businesses. And there was a couple of instances on MMB where they tried to go in and they weren't able to do it because they just couldn't come up with the capital to put in the full kitchen that was going to be needed. So
the biggest part of that restaurant or anything is the hood and the fire suppression. That's where the serious money is.
Mm-hmm.
All of the others,
It's relatively minor
Yeah.
compared to that.
Yeah.
But with that, and then, but I think what John was saying is some of the establishments here in Daytona, they have a bar on a restaurant permit, and they don't serve food. They're classifying, if you go into some of them, you can go in and get a bag of potato chips and some crackers or something, and they're saying that that's food, and that's a little silly. When the city, because the city, though, of what my understanding is, that's not their job to police the liquor license in a bar. It's not zoning or anybody else's, but your liquor license is only controlled by the state, and the state doesn't monitor it.
How does that impact the neighborhoods, Dennis? Like, if I want to, could I get an ice cream shop in my neighborhood with a...
It doesn't change the zoning. If an ice cream shop was permitted before, it'd be permitted now. If it wasn't permitted, this doesn't allow them to go into an area. So it doesn't go into residential areas. Typically, these are commercial areas, commercial corridors where you have these uses.
So it's not going to be a proliferations of these mom and pops comes in with an ice cream shop, and the next thing you know, they're a full-fledged bar next door to me.
The zoning kind of takes care of where those uses would be permitted.
So it doesn't change the zoning.
No,
it just
does
change
not.
the ability for the business owner to operate.
Yes.
Okay.
And if indeed someone attempted to do that, that would instantly make them non-conforming, and then we have issues to be able to address that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Dennis on this on item 4E? If not, I would ask for a motion on said item 4E, please.
Yeah, make a motion to approve item 4E, LDC text amendment, standard for specific principal use, DB 2025-299, amended section 5.2B18, 5.2B.24 of the LDC.
Very good. Do we have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Passed unanimously. Now we move on to item 5, other business. Some of our boards that we are liaisons sit on or involved with. Downtown area board. Do we have any redevelopment board? Do we have any information on that one? Seeing none. Moving on to Midtown redevelopment.
Yes, Midtown met on May 22nd, and the big piece for us was I just drew a blank.
But it was really big. It was really big.
Oh gosh, hold on just one second. we were discussing signage for Midtown. And we had a healthy discussion on a new signage, color scheme, some of the designs that had already been put together, made plenty of comments about it for corrections, and it was a good, healthy discussion on the signage that would go throughout Midtown.
Well, Ms. Washington, personally, I love the dramatic pause before you got into it. It drew everyone's attention to you. Thank you very much. Moving on to beachside redevelopment.
They've had a problem with quorums.
Okay, I've heard that.
Quorum coming in and in meetings, and then I was out of town for the one that they did.
Okay, all right. Okay, you're officially forgiven,
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chairman. Affordable housing, there was no meeting from last month, so moving on to public comment. Mr. Nicholson,
Mr.
come on
Public.
up. Oh, we got two. I see Jenny slipped in there, didn't see that. Okay, don't worry, Jenny. We'll get you two.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. The county had a meeting Tuesday night, and the Live Local Act came up. There was a gentleman that wanted to build in the middle of their industrial area by DeBerry a housing unit for affordable housing, right? Which then, of course, took their industrial taxes off the tax roll, and for the remainder of the existing building, they would pay no taxes, all right? So the crux of the matter was that they wanted to ask, or they were asking the county for 1.7 million so they could help get another grant to help them pay for the building. So in essence, they were asking the county to give them money so that they can get money to build a building that would pay no taxes, okay? For some reason, the county was not happy with that, all right?
Shocking.
Yeah. Right? So at the beginning, the premise was that they had to okay this, all right? Because it's legal. The state legislature said what do you call it? Fair housing, whatever it is, you have to permit it. Well, during the discussion, I kind of said, okay, you're going to give this guy $1.7 million, but you've reached an agreement that in 50 years, he's going to start paying taxes. All right? So, and when he pays taxes, you will still be short $200,000 when he finishes paying taxes. So I'm like, is this really what, you don't want to put this thing here in the first place to lose all this tax, and now you're going to still lose money in the long run. And you don't have to okay it, the 1.7 million. If he wants to build, he can. But chances are, if you don't give him the money, he's not going to be able to borrow the money or get a grant. And if he doesn't get those two grants, he's not going to build. So they turned it down. So what I'm asking you, if this comes before you in the future and they have attached to it, I need this, okay, Live Local Act. I'm going to get this grant. If you give me the okay, I will get this grant. In order to get another grant, you don't have to say yes if it's attached to the grant. Right? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
There are ways around this. You don't have to okay a lot of things if it pertains to a grant. And I know a lot of times that doesn't affect you guys because you're just looking at the issue itself. But if they can't do it, they may not get that grant if they don't get the grant. There's a place on Beach Street in Madison that have been trying for 17 years, and they still haven't gotten a grant. So, thank you.
Point making. Thank you, John. Jenny.
Can I just make two points on that? You're correct. The grants don't come to the planning board. They go to the city commission. It would be the city commission that grants that. But also with the Live Local Act, they won't even see the site plan. It's all administratively approved. The state said, no, it doesn't even go to the board for approval or city commission. It is just a staff approval. So it won't even go to a board. So, yeah.
Wow.
Please.
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey Avenue. I love planning. I think that's my most natural thing that I love the most is the planning area of government. But so last night at City Commission, as you know, a development came up, the thing on West ISB, the gentleman from Buffalo, and it was fairly well received. I thought it sounded good, and most other people thought it sounded good. But something I brought up at City Commission was that it wasn't even mentioned about that it's on a bus line, and that got me thinking. This needs to be part of the conversation, especially for affordable housing. It's a selling point for it, the fact that it is on a bus line. And also the fact that it's right near the giant flea market where every kind of produce and any kind of household items are available. That's a big advantage. So it doesn't. I think we're very car-centric society, of course. So we don't always even think of bus lines and walkability and all that stuff in the conversation. But I'd like to try to remember to bring it up more. When I think of LPGA, that place is such a hellscape. I'm like, how bad does it have to get? How bad does it have to get before we have some? Before we have some? No, before we have some sidewalks and bike lanes and a few more buses. Like, how bad does it have to get before some people will be like, gee, if there was a bus, or a trolley or something, I'd rather ride that, or if there's a walking trail, I'd rather take that, or if there's a closer place that I can walk to get my groceries. I'm just wondering. I don't know how much. I know a lot of it is like FDOT and other boards and things. It's not necessarily the responsibility of planning, but I just want to bring it up in the conversation. I plan to try to grow old here, but I'm not going to be able to grow old if the only planning is more cars and no buses and stuff. It's like, I want to get old here and walk everywhere. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jen.
And of course, it's all about me,
Yeah. All righty, thank you. Any comments from staff?
No comments. Have a great
Okay,
evening.
any comments from board members? Josephine, you made it through your first meeting. Congratulations. Well done.
Welcome.
You did good. With that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your evening, everybody.